Okay, I see that it is 2 o'clock. And as such, welcome to our town hall meeting. It is not how we had wanted it to happen. But I'm really so glad that we have all been able to come together. Right now, it looks like we've got more than 100 of us, and we'll see how many more join us. But also, this is being recorded so that you can all watch this again and again and again whenever you want. I want to introduce Ginni Lorimore. Ginni is our brand manager, and she is also the facilitator extraordinaire because she has been doing all of these town hall meetings. So Ginni, do you want to say hello to everyone?
Thanks, Len. I'd love to. Hi, everybody. I've learned a lot about Zoom in these last few weeks. Would you like me to go over chat features now, or wait a minute, Len?
No, why don't you do that now?
Okay, perfect. So for our Q&A session today, we're going to have a couple of options on how to chat your questions. Since there is quite a few of us in this room, which is excellent, I'm going to send you a chat right now so you can see that. You should have gotten a little notification in orange or yellow on your screen. So hopefully everybody sees that. So that's a public chat. That means everybody in this room right now can see this chat. So you can definitely ask questions publicly like this, or you can ask a question directly to me, and that would be an anonymous question, and I will ask them anonymously. So you'll just select my name or start typing once you get to the little blue drop-down menu below that text. And then you'll know it's privately just to me when it says Ginni Lorimore and then in parentheses privately. So feel free to answer questions there. And as Len said, this is being recorded. We will add all of our recorded town hall sessions to isu.edu/town hall. And there are plans in the works for more town halls after budgets are official. So stay tuned for information on that. All of the recordings except for the President's Office this morning are online if you'd like to check out any of the other ones. Thanks, Len. I'll turn it back over to you.
Right, Ginni, thank you. So we have 1 hour scheduled for this, but I do want you to know that I will stay online as long as anybody wants me to answer questions up until 4 o'clock, and then I do have another meeting. So, but if there are other questions that come in, please know you can always ask, email, text, call, whatever is easiest. We will make sure that you get the answers or answers to the questions you might have. So, our agenda for the day, or at least for the next hour, and Diana is managing our slide deck. So, Diana, thank you for doing that. Want to kind of talk about where we are now. We are going to talk about budget because I know that has been a topic for all of us for a very long time. Roaring back is a term, I believe, coined by Dr. Solbrig in our University Health Center, and we are going to reopen. So let's talk about what that looks like. I do want to continue the celebration of our team. We always do that at all of our town hall meetings. So we started off with that incredible Star Wars video at the front. Craig Joseph, thank you for doing that. And we'll make sure that you get a copy of that as well. But we also have a little bit more towards the end, and then as promised, Q&A. So where are we now? I want to really call out a lot of the good work and hard work and lots of work by our academic advising staff, by our enrollment management staff, and certainly by everyone, but want to give you some idea of where our enrollment projections are right now. So, as of 1 week ago today, we have admitted 5,600 new students, which is almost a 50% increase over this time last year. So that's super exciting, and that's very, very good. However, I do want to make sure that we don't hang our hats on this too much because so many things have changed in the last couple of months. But one of the ways that we have been able to admit more students is because of our incredible work with marketing and communications in getting word out about Idaho State. Our marketing plan across the state certainly has helped, but also enrollment management's work with our vendor, Ruffalo Noel Levitz, often referred to as RNL. And they have been helping us identify prospective students for us to reach out to and say, hey, look at us, consider us, and learn how great we are. So anyway, those numbers are looking really good. But just because that they've been admitted does not mean that they are going to plan on attending. So, but that's a good sign. And kind of with that, some of the different things that that will help us yield these students. The admission staff, they are contacting every single admitted student, and they're doing that by text, by phone, by video chat. I know that our student ambassadors are doing a card campaign to all of our students. We are offering Zoom sessions for every single admitted student. That our scholarship office, and thanks to Deb Green and her team, we've extended the scholarship deadlines as well as the scholarship acceptance deadline. So the application and the acceptance deadlines. We're going to be sending out letters to parents and families, and certainly just continuing to work with academic advising and the registrar's office and registration of all of our students. One of the other things that we are, that this team has been working very extensively on is the COVID funding. And when we get to our budget talk in a little bit, I will share more about that. Some of the other things that our enrollment management team and our academic advising team are doing is reaching out to our current students and encouraging them to fill out a FAFSA, making sure that we contact every single current student about enrolling now as opposed to waiting until the week or two before classes start in August. Working with all of our student populations, our student athletes, our honor students, our trio students, so really working with all of that. And then thanks to our counseling and testing services, we have Bengal tips of the day that are going out, emails, probably too many, but lots and lots of emails. So anyway, that I think is helping us with our enrollment. The next piece is our registration data. So I want to draw your attention to the top two boxes where it says week 3 registration data current, and then week 3 data without early freshman registration. So this year, because we had lots of plans and lots of work and lots of effort, Brooke Barber, thank you so much, to plan on a summer orientation and registration that was going to take place in June and July. That is now being pushed back until August. We made the decision, actually, let me own that. I made the decision to forego early registration for our first year students because they were going to register during summer. Obviously, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't done that. But here we are. So if we look at day-to-day comparisons, understanding that we started our fall registration 1 week later this year than we did last year. If you look at the box on the left-hand side, current data, it shows that we are 25% under where we were last year. But that also includes our incoming first-year students. So if you look at the box on the right, it takes that number out, and it shows that we are 12% down. 12%, 25%, far too much. And so we have a lot of different efforts and initiatives to close that gap. And I am confident that we will do that. So some of the different things is, of course, advising in online and over the phone and tele-advising, as it were. All of our advisors have been given a caseload of students within a specific college or a specific set of majors. All of the advisors on our campus are using a tool where students can go online and book a session with their academic advisor. And we have seen an increase in our academic advising appointments since we have implemented that. We also are tracking all of our registration data on a regular basis. I know it's weekly, but I have a feeling we're doing it more often than that. And we're tracking it by undergraduate, by graduate, by our different classifications, first year, second year, seniors, et cetera. And then we are academic advising and admissions is working hand in glove to make sure that as a new student is admitted, they are connected with academic advising. So anyway, some really great things that are happening. And I do want to just kind of point out that that gap of how many students are enrolled now versus last year, it is closing every single week. So well done, team. Some other hopeful data has to do with our residence hall contracts. So I don't know if this is students are tired of living with their parents and families, or parents and families are tired of their students living with them, but we have more application deposits paid in our residence halls now than we did this time last year. So Craig, Melissa, Bobby, Jordan, and Tyler, thank you very much. Keep it up. We are excited about that. Pre-orientation, we are having some online modules for our students. And again, we had, 43 students start that in the last couple, well, this was within a 2-day period last week where they started it, and the numbers of those who are completing it are increasing. So again, I'm taking all of these as really hopeful signs that students want to be here and they're excited to be here, and we are very excited to have them here. So that's kind of how we are tracking our numbers. So let's get to the budget. And first, before I really get into this, thank you. I would say that Idaho State in general, and many of our departments specifically, have not had robust budgets to begin with. And without a doubt, I think that you are all experts in how do we do more with less? How do we make an impact with what we have? How do we make sure that we are focusing on our students and their experience? And I applaud you for that. So as we move forward, we will continue to do that. It simply is going to be a little more challenging, but I also know that we are up to the challenge. So basically this year, as we started out this year looking at finishing out the FY20, which I don't know how many of you are super familiar with the fiscal year 20. That's always the year that fiscal year ends. So our fiscal year is always July to June. So we are currently in fiscal year 20. And the governor had asked, I think it was maybe in November of 19, for the university to give back 1%, which was about $1 million, and then asked for another 1% to happen between now and the end of June, another $1 million. And we as a division certainly have done our part, and we really did that through decreased spending. Some of that was perhaps not by choice. We couldn't travel. We weren't going to offer our summer orientation programs. We weren't able to do our high school visits, some of those different areas. But now, as we look at fiscal year 21, taking into account the structural deficit that we had at the university going into the year was about $6 million, adding the $2 million that we had to give back, with looking at perhaps another $5 million for next year, the impacts of COVID, which right now we've kind of budgeted at about $3 million, we are looking at a $17 million deficit, which is scary, but has also provided us an opportunity throughout our campus to figure out how we're going to make that happen. So a few things. we all submitted a budget looking at how could we decrease, what was our right-sized budget for fiscal year 21. And the budget for student affairs came in at about $31 plus million. So that was all great, all good. And then COVID hit, and we needed to look at coming up with 4%, 5%, and 6% cuts to that $31 million budget. So anyway, we have done that. Well, we have proposed that. So last week, I think Leadership Council had maybe 10 or 12 hours of meetings reviewing all of the different budgets, proposals, proposed cuts, and that happened throughout the week. And then the admin council, we've had, oh gosh, maybe 8 or 10 hours of meetings this week where we really reviewed those, some micromanaging, getting into the weeds, and some not, and trying to make sure that we can right-size the university's budget, that we can communicate to all of our campus students, faculty and staff, as well as to our community and to our state legislators, that we have taken this seriously, that we know we cannot continue to operate in the hole. And I think we have a path forward. There will be some announcements that should be coming out in the coming days. I do want to say that perhaps the biggest impact on the university's budget is enrollment. Absolutely. I would much rather grow our budget than cut our budget. So whatever we can do to recruit new students and retain our students through to graduation is always the best thing. One, it certainly helps our budget, but two, it's the right thing to do, and it's why we do what we do. So that is kind of what our plans are. I will say that our Dean of Students, Craig Chatrand, Academic Advising Executive Director, Corey Zink, and Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management, Stacy Phelan, they are all going to be, I think that's the team. They're going to be creating a larger team to create a process where we will all be engaged with outreach and connecting with all of our students. So I am going to actually, perhaps for the first time, and perhaps it's going to be, you already know him, but our Dean of Students is Craig Chatrand, and Dr. Chatrand joined us, I believe, about a week before COVID hit. So he has had a very unique start to his time here at Idaho State. But Craig, meet the division, meet Craig, and Craig is going to talk about how we are going to roar back.
Hello, everybody. It is nice to meet some of you for the first time, although I've been in meetings with many of you. I have enjoyed working from my home much more than my office, which I got to enjoy for about 2 weeks before we all came home. But with that, we are starting to look at how do we start moving all of us back to working on campus. One decision that's already been made is that we will be doing the summer semester in distance-based instruction. So that's going to go through all of the different summer sessions. As we start phasing back into campus, we're going to take the health and safety of all of our faculty, staff, and students as our #1 priority. And so I'm going to be asking very shortly all of the directors to start developing plans to start transitioning our staff back to campus in different stages. Similar to how we went remote, we're going to occupy campus again in different stages. And so I'm going to be asking directors to start thinking about, what does your office need to safely provide services to our campus community? So if you need maybe plexiglass installed in certain points in your office, let's start thinking about how to do that. How do we make sure that everybody is 6 feet apart, both in offices, both as we serve students and their families, How do we mark those distances? And so we're going to be putting together a lot of different plans on how we're going to reintegrate ourselves back into campus. Timelines for how we're doing this are going to work a little bit differently for different offices. Some offices we're going to ask to come online a little bit quicker. Some we're going to stagger out a little bit more. I don't see us having our entire division come back all at once. Some offices, as we were winding down in March, had different teams where Team A would work 2 or 3 days a week. Team B would rotate in at the other days of the week. Most likely that's how we're going to be phasing ourselves back into campus. For anybody working on campus, though, we are going to ask them to continue to engage in physical distancing, continue to pay a lot of attention to hand washing, sneezing, coughing into your arm, and wearing masks anytime you're in a public place on campus. And so those are the ways that we are going to be scaling back onto campus. And you'll be getting a lot more information as we move forward and as information becomes available.
Thank you. Thank you. There actually, I think there's going to be a message that's planned to come out this afternoon, perhaps during our town hall meeting, but this afternoon about what that actually looks like. And we have a chart identifying academic affairs functions and student-facing functions as to, are we remaining remotely distanced? Are we beginning that process to reopen? And then when we are actually open. So let me rephrase that. We are opening and we will all be reopening. It's just, what are those protocols that we have in place? So start thinking through that. And as Craig mentioned, talk to your director about ideas or thoughts that you have, concerns that you have about returning to work. So I do want to, as we started our presentation, we had asked for all of you to submit kind of shout outs or attaboys or way to goes that Craig Joseph had started at the start of our slideshow. One of the things that as a university we were not able to do is we were not able to recognize in our typical way our years of service recognition. So ranging from 5 years to 35 years. So to all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate it. Can't imagine how this year might compare to all of your previous years, but I appreciate your time and your effort and your contributions. I also want to call out our student government. So they have, a week or so ago, they started, they inducted their new members of ASISU, and how they ended their meeting was truly heartwarming for me. They always, when they have their meetings, they always end their meetings by singing the fight song. So I want to show you just a snippet of our ASISU officers singing the fight song remotely.
Fight Bengals, fight. Keep them Bengals and fight with all your.
So I share that with you simply because that is why we do what we do. Our students are our why. They make us roar, and I am so proud to work with them and to work for them, and also to work with and to work for all of you. So let me see if there are any questions, and I will try to answer them, or I might call on some other folks who are with us. Ginny.
You got it, Lynn. Okay, so we are now accepting questions. If anybody wants to send those in, feel free, either to everyone or privately to me. The first one, Lynn, is how will programs that are fully grant funded be affected by the budget? Will there be cuts, layoffs, or furloughs?
That is an excellent question. And so our fully grant funded programs, there will be cuts. No question about it. We, as a university, have been exploring furloughs. And so, but what we're looking at is we're looking at a stratified version. So those who make the most amount of money will take the most amount of days. And also looking at making sure that we break those days up between the first half of the fiscal year, so July to December, and the second half of the fiscal year, January to June. And so with that plan, I know that information will be coming out. And we talked about whether or not our grant-funded folks should be a part of that, and the decision was yes. And let me tell you why I support that. In a previous life, at a previous institution, we needed to take furlough days for multiple years to try to repair the state budget. And I didn't work for a grant-funded program, but I did work for an auxiliary that had a larger budget than our entire division. And so as a department, we could have made it without taking those furlough days. We could have paid our staff and everything would have been hunky-dory, except we were a part of the university. And this is where we need to be a team and understand that we are all impacted by the challenges that we're faced. So we will have information about that with whatever decision comes out about our furloughs, but wanted to let you know that yes, we are planning on that.
Lynn, we were asking for some clarification on summer semester. So summer semester, all sessions have moved 100% remote. Did we hear that correctly? Does that include Bengal Bridge?
So that is correct. Yes. All of our summer courses are going to be remote distance-based education. And I believe that much of that is true for Bengal Bridge, but I need to find out more information about that because Bengal Bridge is a residential program and that's part of being a member of or being a part of Bengal Bridge. So let me find that out and get back to you. And I'll get back to everybody with all of these questions. And if I can continue talking just for a moment, I think one of the challenges is in terms of our residential program, we did strongly encourage our students to go home, to go to a more permanent location. We do still have maybe a couple dozen students living in the residence halls, and we have more than that living in our apartments in their single apartment dwellings. But we have to have the whole question about how and when will we open up the residence halls, because residence halls, our residence halls tend to be double room occupancy. So I don't know that we're ready for that. Our bathrooms are community bathrooms. That doesn't mean that they're just open, but they certainly are not private. And so we need to look at, how does somebody go brush their teeth, or, and how can we keep our students and our staff who work in the residence hall safe? So we need to identify those answers before we can make the decisions about when.
Lynn, I'd like to also add, there will be, as with most things, some exceptions for some of the summer courses. I think some of the College of Technology labs and some other labs on campus may be in person if they can observe the physical distancing. And I believe there's a petition process they'll have to go through to do that. That is not going to be common that all labs will be in person, but there are some where either for accreditation or to keep students on a timely path to graduation, there will be a couple exceptions to that also.
Thank you. Appreciate that. we certainly have lost some folks, but a lot of you came back, and thank you very much for doing that. So, Ginny, how about if you will lock the room and then explain what you're doing. And then I have asked Stacy Gibson and Rick Pongratz to kind of talk us through what just happened. So Ginny, are you able to kind of explain how we hope our room will be safe?
Yes. So I have, at a certain point, we're going to lock the room. There's a security feature where we can lock it. I'm going to enable the waiting room right now so that anybody who joins has to go to a waiting room and then I add them in. For future town halls, we'll definitely include a password required. And then this, see right now somebody is asking to enter, so I have to admit them. So they have to be admitted from this point on, and I'll do that going forward as well. With a public website posted Zoom link, that's where you run the risk of getting hacked in a similar manner. And I do apologize that that happened. That was extremely unfortunate. I'm going to put the chat feature information here again in case anybody needs that. And I did not save the last couple of questions. So if you have sent a question to me, please send it again.
Ginny, thank you. Stacy?
Sure. I am not camera ready. I wasn't planning on being on camera today, so you'll have to excuse that. And my partner just cooked an egg, and I hate eggs. So my home office now smells like eggs. So sorry. Zoom bombing is kind of the latest iteration of harassment. The FBI has put out a warning about it, and they are now, and Zoom has been under a lot of pressure to fix their security features. But this really is endemic of kind of some of the other things that we're seeing. We have seen a recent increase in the number of racially based harassment complaints. We've had students who are being harassed both electronically and within our community. Just last week, we had a student athlete who experienced some harassment in town walking around. And then we've had numerous students who have been being harassed online. So unfortunately, there's a lot of folks with time on their hands, and we're all experiencing a lot of anxiety right now, and they're adding to the problem. So it is unfortunate. I do think that this is a good reminder that we have to be really vigilant about the security features that we have. So, you know, prevention goes a long ways, but certainly when things like this do happen, there are processes in place. So if any of you would like to talk through that or would like to file a complaint, feel free to come and talk to me about that. And we can talk through your concerns and what that might look like. So I know all of us are meeting this way, and it's a new format, and it's difficult for us, but let's just be really mindful of especially the prevention piece of it, so we can stop these unfortunate incidents and these despicable behaviors as much as we possibly can. So I'm happy to take any questions that anybody might have.
And I will thank you, Stacy. I'm going to add to that too, Lynn. I'll work on getting some notes down and distributed in Idaho State Today for anybody who is creating a Zoom meeting, so that we can all know what those security measures are and how to implement them on the back end, on the user side or on the admin side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick, can you talk a little bit?
I'll say words. I can't make any promises on them. Lynn asked me to say a little bit about what just happened and how we might be feeling, and so Having, I've read about Zoom bombing. I had sort of a theoretical cognitive conception of what that would be, but it really didn't have any sort of a sense of, from an emotional level, what it would be like to experience it. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about kind of my reaction, and I want to invite other people to share their thoughts and their reactions. And before I talk about mine, I guess, and I just want to make a statement about the validity of whatever you felt as that went down. Some of you may have been surprised, and Ginni shut it down before you knew what was happening, and then we were back on the call. Some of you may not have seen what had happened on the screen because you were looking at, I had all your faces on my other monitor and was watching the faces rather than the screen, so I only saw it out of the corner of my eye, and then Ginni shut it down. But anyway, the reactions would be normal, kind of whatever you felt like. So my first was kind of surprise, and then I felt hurt. I felt sadness in my chest, a heaviness about, and I guess what went through my brain is the world, so much of the world is so hard right now. And yet to have to deal with one more thing where someone's intentionally adding to that just feels overwhelming sometimes to me. And so, so I think that's the range that I had. You may have felt something completely different. You may have felt threatened or afraid. You may have felt as though, I'm going to use some colorful language for deliberate purpose, but your thought may have been, oh, I wish those dumb shitheads would knock it off, or, I mean, it may have been just sort of frustration and moved beyond it, and that was it. But whatever that was, that's kind of how that's coming from you and kind of your background and your views of the world. And so those reactions are all normal, and there's not really a right or wrong way to respond to it. I'm going with sadness because that's what landed first. I'm wondering if other folks would be willing to kind of share how you're doing right now, or kind of how you're making sense of the world that we live in.
I appreciate that Rick identified sadness, and that might be because he's a better person than I am. I'm mostly just angry. I can't believe that we are trying to come together to do some things like celebrate some of the accomplishments people have had this year, to let folks ask questions that have been on their minds for a while, and where Lynn is trying to provide important, timely information about things that a lot of us have been thinking about, and that someone or a group of people would attack that, disturb that, is incredibly frustrating and makes me really upset. And then the second part of that is just how much work there is to do in our world. And I think that's the heart of a lot of what we do in student affairs work, but it's just another clear reminder of what is in front of us to try to educate our students about and on, and to make it a more socially just world.
I may have sugarcoated that if it was just sadness, just saying.
I'm really proud of how many people logged back in. Thank you.
I echo what Craig said. I'm pissed. I mean, to use colorful language, it's so disruptive, and it is so challenging. And then to have to deal with some nonsense like that. But I guess the other thing is it's a good lesson in empathy. I mean, we're college administrators with some stability under us. And if we have students in similar situations who are experiencing the same thing, how disruptive might that be for them as well? So I think there is a lesson in maybe empathy and understanding in that experience as well.
Rick and Stacy, thank you. And for everybody who, as Chess said, came back. For those of you who shared your thoughts, thank you. I believe hurt and anger are what came to my mind. In fact, when I called Stacy, I believe I said a word that started with F and kind of rhymed with truck several times. And then when I called Rick, I was crying. So there you go. You know, maybe it's two sides of the same coin, but
I have that effect on people.
you are a counselor. I am so sorry that happened. I'm so sorry that anybody had to see that or hear that, and want to reiterate Stacy's comments that if you do want to talk to somebody, file a complaint, just express concerns, Stacy's office is the right place to do that. I know that our Counseling and Testing Center really is working with students, but I know that they are the kind of people who will not turn us away if you want to talk to them. We also have EAP, and certainly you can talk to me. So thank you for being there. Thank you for coming back, and we will figure this out together. So, how about if we try to take a really awkward, hard left turn and go back to questions and answers? And that is awkward and it is hard to do. And I don't know how we just say, oh, hey, okay, we're just going to compartmentalize and put that aside. And if one of your questions is about what happened, absolutely. Okay. So, Ginny, questions?
Got it. Thank you, Lynn. Okay. So if this is about social distancing at work, so if we're going to practice social distancing at work, what does that look like for our advisors meeting one-on-one with students where we're typically in close proximity in a small office?
You know, I think that's one of the questions that we need to answer. You know, some of our teams, we have private offices, but we have a lot of people coming in and out of those offices. We have a lot of people sitting in our welcome reception areas, and we have other team members who are working in more of a shared community space. And then, of course, we have our folks who are working with where our students eat and sleep and brush their teeth and go to the bathroom. And then we have others that are working in the Reed Gym where people sweat. And how do we manage all of that? So we're actually working through that. I know that Zach McMurtry went today and bought a whole bunch of plexiglass, as much as he could find, and we are going to start to figure out where do we install that and how do we install that? Do we need to have something at the end of desks? Do we need to reconfigure where we meet with students? Understanding that much of what we are talking about with students is confidential. So I don't think we need to be sitting out in a hallway or in the Benyon large gathering student union space or the quad lounge talking about financial aid. So we need to figure out how to do that. So that's where I would say, talk to your supervisor about ideas that you might have. Perhaps it is how we reconfigure our workspaces, where our desks are, where we sit with our students, and where we sit with each other. We have had in the Pond Student Union, the Wood River Room and the Little Wood River Room, I think I got those names right, set up as computer labs. Well, we're hoping to reconvert those back to meeting spaces because I think we're going to need those to help us maintain that physical distance of 6 feet. So Excellent question. I wish I had an answer, but I think all of us will be able to figure that out together and understand that this is going to be a process.
Okay. Next question, Lynn. The main question that I've gotten from the students in my territory since campus is closed is whether or not we'll be open for campus visits over the summer. If we do not have a set date, is there a plan to open our campus again for prospective students to see what it's like to be a Bengal?
Excellent. Oh my gosh, we can't wait. I think the date, and let's see here, Craig, Lowell, Stacy, you might have the date. I think it was June 13th maybe, or so mid-June-ish is when we hoping to be open for business. Again, open for business and maintaining social distance. So I kind of envision perhaps some of our campus tours almost like a mama duck and baby ducklings, you know, kind of traveling, but a distance between them. So did somebody have that date?
Yeah, June 13th is, I think, the target. A really, really important caveat. And as with most things involving COVID, we're going to ask you to be very flexible. If there is an increase in COVID infections, if there's a spike somewhere in our state, the phases that we have put together as an institution and will be trying to follow the governor's timeline for the different stages for Rebound Idaho. And so we have a plan. We think it will work. But if there's an increase in infections, that could change the timeline on that.
Yep. Thank you.
Next question, Lynn. Has there been more discussion on full-time staff going to an 11-month contract?
You know, honestly, I know I raised some of those questions about going to an 9, 10, 11-month contract. And I asked the question about, could our staff go to an 11.5-month contract? And honestly, I asked the question, did not get an answer, and failed to follow up. So I apologize, but I will. At this point, because our I think our formal contract date was April 27th, so that was Monday. I don't know that we're able to do that for our next fiscal year, but I can certainly find out. I do know that I think it was Boise State that had made the change to some of their non-classified employee contracts. And I think they kind of did it across the board, either for an entire classification of employees, and we have not done that.
The next question, in the spirit of transparency, how will budget cuts to our division be communicated to everyone in our division? I am in a secretarial position, but I still want to know what people/programs were cut.
So we will be as transparent and thorough in our messaging. What we have to do first is we have to make those final decisions. And oh gosh, I don't want to make this up, but so I'm going to say this is an educated guess. I believe that Dr. Nelson, our Vice President for Finance and Business Affairs, and the President need to submit the university's budget, I think it's next week, to the state board. So we will know more, all of us will know more about what is happening and what is not happening, and hopefully be able to answer all of these kind of questions and concerns that have been just hanging over all of us for so long. So let me kind of go back to that for me, when I think about who we are as a division and who we are as a university, we all have our own jobs and our own responsibilities, and thank goodness for that. But because we are in one position versus another position doesn't mean that somebody should know something and somebody else should not know something. We all have the right to know, and I will make sure that that happens.
Okay, we do not have any additional questions right now, but I'm sure that more will come in. So if anybody would like to share You can either do that to everyone or type my name, Ginny, Ginny, in the blue drop-down menu.
So I was going to say I used to teach, which I did this semester too. In fact, I just submitted grades. But when I have taught either in a classroom or presented to a group, one of the things that I will do is when we ask if there are questions or if there are comments, I will then, and I know I've shared my secret because it's not a secret, is I will count backwards in my head silently from 15 to 0. And I always think if I get to 0, then there are no more questions. So I'm going to start counting. And if anybody wants to kind of hum the Jeopardy theme or whatever it is to yourself, please know that I will continue to answer questions, whether in this format, in another town hall, in person, whether that's physical distancing, texting, phone, whatever that looks like. So I'm going to start counting to see if there are any other questions.
Can you talk to us about plans for ELC?
Yes. So we had made the decision to be in alignment with the school districts here in Pocatello and then also up in Idaho Falls to close the ELCs in alignment with those school districts' decisions. And the school districts have decided to remain closed through the rest of the academic school year, which I don't have children in K-12 any longer, and so I don't know when that end date is. The governor's plan, however, has indicated that childcare and daycare centers can open as of tomorrow, May 1. We as an institution are not planning on opening tomorrow because we need some lead time to be able to do that. So I know that Lowell is working with Carrie to figure out how can we open, when can we open, what needs to happen. Cleaning, we need to find out how many parents want their children to attend the ELC. We need to make sure our staff are ready to come back and feel safe in coming back. So our hope is that we will be able to reopen prior to like our typical, well, I can't say our typical summer session, but we would like to open earlier than what we had thought we would, but we have not made that final decision because that's not something we can do without being in close consultation with Carrie and her team.
Okay, while we're waiting on additional questions, we have a request to see James's dog, who made a brief appearance, and any other pets in the room.
No, I can't see him, James. Oh my goodness. There's a school in Wisconsin, and their website with their team in the division were all of the pets. What had no people in it. It was just pictures of their pets. So maybe that's an idea.
Lynn, what would you like us to focus on right now, and what can we do to help you or administration moving forward?
Thank you. Honestly, I would say first and foremost, take care of yourself. I think we probably all have good days and bad days. And so acknowledge that, validate that, get up from wherever you are working from, whether it's your couch or if you're still in the office or your kitchen table, backyard, but just take a little bit of a break. And then I would say, start thinking about what it is going to be like being back in our workplaces together in June, July, or August. And what do we want that to look like? How can we celebrate that? understanding that, those of us who might be huggers, we don't get to do that. Maybe we get to high five, but only if we have latex gloves. I just don't know. But think about what we want our workspaces and our work lives to be like. And also let me know what you need. This is new for all of us, and I'm not super happy that any of it happened, but I will say that I believe this has given us an incredible opportunity to really think about who we are and what we do and why we do it, and now how we do it. And so I started college back in the 1980s, and that would be the early 1980s. And I remember learning then that if I brought pizza to a program, students would show up. And I think that's still true now, that if I brought pizza somewhere, I would have students who would show up for that. But maybe this is giving us the opportunity to think about how we do that, how we get students, how we have each other show up, but just in a different way.
Will we have to wear masks when we come back to work? I find that I touch my face more when I am wearing a mask than when I am not.
Excellent question. And my guess is yes, that we will have to wear masks. Now, let's say you're sitting and working at your desk, or you are working in an area and you are alone. Maybe you won't have to. But I think about when we go to the bathroom or when we're in meetings, we might need to wear masks. And I agree. I wear glasses, and I find that my glasses are always steaming up, and that's annoying. And then this is what I did the other day. I went into the grocery store and I was getting some fruit, and I could not open those little plastic bags to put the fruit in. So I stuck my finger up under my mask to lick my finger to open the bag to get the fruit in. And I did that over and over and over again. So I was like, that I think is defeating the purpose. Although I will tell you, my dad, who is living on his own down in Arizona, he likes to go to the store every day to get his potato salad and chicken wings and bananas for his Rice Krispies. And he has struck up a friendship with Jimmy, who works at the deli counter. And my dad has asked Jimmy if he will give him his old used latex gloves. And Jimmy has said no, thank goodness. But anyway, I think we just need to figure out, what does this look like and how do we make it work for all of us?
Follow-up question to that. I would like mask wearing to be the norm. Will we have enough masks to hand out to students and customers that enter our spaces?
So I'm going to ask Craig or Lowell to talk about that, because they are working on this reopening team.
Lowell, do you want to answer first?
Sure. I know for now, all the auxiliary offices, we have ordered masks to distribute to all of the employees in the ELC, campus recreation, housing, student union, some of the frontline departments. I'm hoping we'll have leftovers to distribute to the rest of the division. But I know we'll work with Craig to make sure that we have masks for every employee within student affairs.
Thank you. Here's the challenge, though. We are going to have to be able to wash those. So we will try to, if you've got some, great. Please plan on using those. We will do what we can to stockpile them.
These will be cotton cloth that can be washed.
I'm also on a committee, Lynn, that is working to accept donations of sewn cloth masks, and we're also ordering and have ordered some for essential staff that are currently on campus. So there are people who are working on this at all levels of campus.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Lynn, can you clarify your point about the phased in approach and when we will receive information on this?
Well, I would like to clarify, but I don't want to cause confusion. There will be an email coming out from Marty. Well, it'll come from Ginny's office. I'm not sure if it's coming from Stuart or the president. And the plan is that that's coming out today about the different offices, units, departments, and that phased in approach. So what we know is we have our academic affairs, College of Tech, some of those classes will need to kind of resume in person, but with health precautions taken into consideration or in place. And then the plan is that in the fall, our classes will resume in person. That doesn't mean that they're going to resume in person like it looked like at the start of this semester. So taking a look at what classrooms are we using, how many students will be in a section, how many chairs will we have, and how are those chairs going to be arranged. So we're going to be doing that with all of the departments in our division, and that is happening with every department on our campus. So that includes Meridian, that includes Idaho Falls, that includes Twin Falls. So what I will say is when that information comes out, let's all take a look at that, and then we can talk more about that in our respective teams. And as there are questions, as there are ideas and suggestions, we are welcome and open to all of them.
Len, can you help bridge the gap about Bengal Bridge and where we are with that?
I am going to ask Lowell, because Lowell just sent me an email that he had received. So Lowell, will you talk about Bengal Bridge, please?
Yes, so my understanding, and from the email I received, Bengal Bridge will be online. There will be a few students who will need accommodations in the summer, but there are very few of those, and we will accommodate those few students with housing for the summer. But everything has been moved to online for Bengal Bridge, and that came from the provost, Laura Woodworth-Nye.
Thanks, Lowell. And I think that we will probably have the same request for some housing accommodations for TRIO students.
Yes, we will accommodate. Craig and his team will accommodate those who need housing during the summer.
Again, I want to call out Craig and his team, because holy cow, talk about needing to be nimble and flexible and responding to so many different questions and concerns, probably every single day. So thank you.
This one might be for Lowell, but can you tell us information about the bookstore future plans and what is the current status of opening on campus?
So Barnes and Noble will be our new bookstore operator. We are working on the transition now as we speak. They will begin their first day on campus the end of June. The third week of June, the bookstore will be closed entirely to customers for the transition. But by the end of June is the plan for Barnes & Noble to take over operations from Follett moving forward.
We think that there will be a couple of days where it just won't be available, but I do know that we will be responding to questions, emails, etc., as that transition happens.
They're in the process of advertising and hiring staff.
In the meantime, the bookstore is having a 50% off sale.
Yes.
Oh, and
Great.
Tomorrow, Hallmark cards 50% off.
Yeah, if you want a deal in the bookstore, most everything is 50% off. Not everything, but most everything.
Right, Rainey, what? This is the time to plan.
That's right.
What else?
Lynn, can you talk to us about the difficulties of planning strategically when things are so uncertain?
It sucks. I have to tell you, it's really hard. But I, in my budget presentation, which I did last week, and what I will do is I'll send out this graphic that Diana was able to find for me, that I always keep. Kind of try to keep at the forefront, is when I think about what we're doing, how to do something, how to make a decision between A or B, I first think about our students. What is in the best interest of our students? And then I go out from there and I think, what is in the best interest of our team? And what is in the best interest of the university? What is in the best interest of our communities? So I always try to think about that. So going back to the budget, considering we are the Division of Student Affairs, we know what our job is. We are to be here for our students. And I needed to make cuts, but I tried to do so where it would have the least direct impact on our students. And what the end result will be, I don't yet know. I know that there will be an impact. It's just how can we try to minimize that? So that's one of the things that I do, is I always kind of work in concentric circles. The other thing that I do is I rely on all of you. I rely on you for your input and your suggestions, your sometimes figurative, sometimes literal, a good swift kick in the butt and say, Lynn, you've missed the mark, kind of come back around. So that's what I try to do.
I don't see any additional questions at this time. Give it a few more minutes in case there are any final questions.
Okay, so I counted from 15, but is there a question?
There is. There's a question about how to shop the bookstore sale.
Lowell.
And I can answer this one too.
Oh,
Well, go ahead, Jen. No, you can go online for any of your orders, or you can make an appointment. If you want to go into the bookstore, you can make an appointment between 8 and noon right now, and go in and look at the inventory. You can just walk up to the door at the bookstore and then call the number that's on the door, and they will let you in.
And if you want to shop online, the shipping is free through May 1st. So today and tomorrow should be the last days for free shipping. So if you go to isu.edu/bookstore and then click on the bookstore site from there, and then what you'll do to find the 50% off is to go to the sale and clearance section. So there's a drop-down menu, and once you pick sale and clearance, it'll take you to subsections, so you can pick apparel, whatever you're interested in, and it will show you everything that's half off.
so I got a pair of shorts and a sweatshirt.
I got a t-shirt and 2 tank tops for like $30, and they just mailed it to the house. It was perfect.
And thank you for the detail, Ginni.
That's right. That's really what's important, not what Stacy and I bought.
There are, if you want, there are boxes and boxes of T-shirts that they ordered through an organization that couldn't pay for them, but they're selling for like $3.50 a shirt, $4 a shirt. If there's something you want to plan for the fall and giveaways, that is an option for you if you want to talk to Lori in the bookstore.
That's a great idea.
Okay. So there's one question. I'm curious how they were going about, so the question is, I'm not sure if CAA is on this meeting, but I was curious how they are going about contacting new incoming students to register for classes. Are they calling them, or are they wanting students to sign up for a time to meet with them?
I don't know if Corey is on here either, but I know that they're doing both. And so once a student is admitted, admissions make sure that academic advising has that information. And so then there's an outreach from academic advising to that student. And then the students going online to book a meeting is probably more for our returning students, but I can also have somebody correct me if I'm mistaken. And then our academic advising staff are reaching out via phone or texting to every single student. But is Corey online?
Here?
Corey, did I mess that up?
No, just a little additional detail. I think it was focusing on the new student side. For new students, we're getting information from two directions. One is from the admissions office, as they are reaching out to all the admitted students to see if they want to speak with an advisor to register. And then they are putting that into a spreadsheet by advisor to reach out to them. And they have the intel as far as, depending on their major, which advisor to kind of drop them into the respective bins. And then also we have that list coming from the registrar of students that have completed the online orientation, because that's a really good indication that they're a hot student if they just completed a online orientation, which takes a few minutes to do that. And so we're reaching out to both groups as quickly as we can, these students who show an interest, and then we advise and register our incoming students that way. So
Thanks, Corey.
I think that might be all the questions, Lynn.
I was busy counting again. So, all right, everyone. Thank you for joining us twice. Thank you for being so gracious, considering everything that happened in the midst of or towards the end of our first town hall meeting. I don't know that this really counts as 2 town hall meetings, but I think that's how I'm going to tell the president. I've already done 1 and 2. We can do a 3rd though. And thank you for your questions, but most of all, thank you for you and for showing up, whether it is in the office, on your couch, in your backyard. Thank you, because our students need us to do that, and they very much appreciate it, I know, and I certainly appreciate it. And just thanks for letting me work with you. It really is an honor. So, all right. I will look forward to seeing every single one of you in person sometime June, July, August, but that will happen from a good, safe, healthy distance, perhaps while we're wearing our masks. And but in the meantime, let me know what I can do.